Welcome back, everyone. 13 and a half after the hour. Time for us to go behind the headlines where, once again, we're looking at the Cromnibus bill that just passed the U.S. House of Representatives late last night and contains within it a rider introduced by Representative Andy Harris, the Republican of Maryland, the medical doctor who thinks that marijuana is a gateway drug, who could not prevent decriminalization and didn't stop it in his own home state, but he's decided he wants to stop it for the 640,000 citizens of the District of Columbia, 70% of whom voted for legalization. The rider that was added says, quote, "None of the funds contained in this act may be used to enact any law, rule, or regulation to legalize or otherwise reduce penalties associated with the possession, use, or distribution of any Schedule I substance," end quote. And Hal Rogers, who's the Appropriations Committee chairman, the Republican from Kentucky, claims that this, quote, "prohibits both federal and local funds from being used to implement a referendum legalizing recreational marijuana use in the district," end quote. But that may not be the case. There was an earlier version of this rider that had a slightly different set of words attached to it. It didn't say it prohibited funds from being used to enact legislation. It said prohibiting funds to enact or carry out any legalization. And through negotiation, the Democrats managed to get the "or carry out" part taken out of the language. Now, this could be a significant victory because, according to Eleanor Holmes Norton, the delegate from Washington, D.C., and others who've looked at this language, they believe that Initiative 71 that legalized marijuana was enacted, quote, "when it was approved overwhelmingly by voters in November," end quote, according to Holmes Norton. The initiative's elimination of penalties for specified marijuana-related activities is self-executing. In other words, what Harris is trying to prevent from happening has already happened. It has already been enacted, and perhaps in a sly political maneuver, the Democrats have managed to get the Republicans to cut out the words "or carry out" that would be so critical in this situation. Now, if "or carry out" was added in there, then they couldn't continue with the legalization they have. And the Democrats argued that that language, "carry out," would not only impact the legalization that had just passed, but also impact the decriminalization that had previously passed and the medical marijuana that had been in effect since 2010. And so in negotiations, Republicans backed away on that, not wanting to see as if they were going to cancel medical marijuana in D.C., something that's popular not just in D.C., but all across the country. But in giving in on the "carry out" language, they may have allowed the current legalization that's already been enacted to stand. Now, there are some caveats in here. Of course, Congress still has a 30-day review period, and some people have asked, well, wait a minute, didn't it pass back in November? Hasn't it been 30 days? No, it's 30 days from when it gets transmitted from Washington, D.C. City Council to the Congress. And the 30 days have to be 30 working days of the Congress. And so there wasn't 30 days between the election and the end of this current Congress. So it has to be turned in at the beginning of the next Congress in January, which will be even greater control for the Republicans because they'll have the House and now they'll have the Senate. So this is going to get turned in. And the question is, well, is the turning in of this initiative to the Congress, is that an act of enacting it and therefore costing money and therefore prohibited? And the argument so far has been no, that there's a difference, that this is about whether or not it takes effect. Everything in the Home Rule Act has to do with Congress reviewing something and whether or not it shall be allowed to take effect. And in the Home Rule Act, it says that Congress has this 30-day period, or in some cases 60 days if it's like a security thing or something. But generally 30 days, the House and the Senate would have to write up a joint resolution disapproving this. And it's only happened like 3 times in 40 years, right? But they'd have to write up a thing that says we disapprove this act, and then President Obama would have to sign it And already President Obama has said, I don't appreciate us monkeying around in Washington, D.C.'s affairs. I'm paraphrasing. So it's unlikely he would sign it. But even if he did, according to the District of Columbia Home Rule Act, it says that when the president signs it, the resolution, quote, shall be deemed to have repealed. Shall have deemed to have repealed the initiative. Well, you can't repeal something that wasn't enacted, can you? So this review period that would lead to a repeal of Initiative 71 legalization kind of infers that, or kind of implies that it's already enacted, doesn't it? All right. So Initiative 71 being enacted would mean that they would have the legal right to possess up to 2 ounces of marijuana and to produce up to 3 flowering plants in their homes. But this rider would prevent Congress and D.C. from moving forward with any market legalization, so there wouldn't be commercial grows or pot shops. It would all be the grow your own, give and grow paradise that some think of. And that's something that it appears Congress will be able to have no effect over. And that Republicans in the coming Congress may not have enough political will to overturn, given that many Republicans are now starting to switch over on the issue of marijuana as a states' rights issue and a limited government issue. And perhaps maybe we ought to get some younger people interested in voting in this issue.